Hey TV fans, Bored now, back with you on this video. I'm going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 3 of From. The episode is called Choosing Day. Full spoilers from the start of this review, so the setup for this one is then it continues to build on the new arrivals settling into town, and the choosing day of the title is then they have this event or this sort of ceremony for like new arrivals where they get to pick where they're going to be living long term, and that throws up all sorts of things during the episode, especially with Julie and her desire to live separate from like the parents during the ceremony, and this causes rift, and I'm going to talk a bit about how this episode does have quite strong Lost vibes, but one of the ways it does is that when Julie like makes this decision and the mum Tabitha tries to like step in and say no, this can't happen, we're her family, she's only 16. Like Donna, the woman who runs the home, she's like, no, this is the rules. She's made a choice, she's got to stick with it, you've got to stick with yours. And then you get Boyd trying to be a bit more of a mediator, like he does find a way to calm the situation, which is a good sort of moment for him. Two sides of town, and it did give me Lost vibes in the way you had the others, or just the fact that the survivors, you had a divide amongst them at one point with them. It's quite early in the show, I think, living in different places. Like one group goes off to live in the caves for a while and the other group stay on the island. So this was giving me quite strong like Lost vibes, and it's not the only example. Faith and religion is definitely a big theme in this, not outright like religion, but it's definitely there in the subtext, and that was a massive theme in Lost. Frank, the one who lost his family in the opening episode, and it was because of his decision to defy the rules, to go off drinking and leave them exposed. The way he has to face up to this is that they've created a box and he has to go and stay in the box overnight, and we get more mythology in the episode. So we find out that they've got talismans, which is a way to like guard off the spirits or whatever these things are meant to be. But as a consequence of his punishment, not only does he have to stay in this box overnight, but he doesn't have a talisman to like guard them off. So he's essentially being punished, and it is going to his death. Boyd says, when this all goes down tonight, just understand it's nothing personal. And Frank comes to terms with this and has accepted that this is the way it's going to go down. But then over the course of the episode, Boyd starts having doubts, a different point of view to the preacher in town, the priest, and it's actually the priest who is insisting that you do this, or Boyd does this, because he says at one point, you created this thing, like this torture style device in the centre of town, and how do you think it'll look if you don't have the strength of your convictions? And he's making an interesting point, which you can say there's some merit to. Then it is almost at times a lawless town or a society without structure. So you may be a bit again like Lost. You do have designated a leader in Jack, for example. Then maybe if this sheriff has assumed that role, then there's an argument in this sort of society. You do need to reinforce the rules, otherwise it would be total chaos. But this is obviously an extreme because it's an extreme thing to do, and definitely morally it seems questionable at the very least. Boyd wrestles with throughout the episode, like he's tormented with it, scary thing to actually do. And the other thing is then he's making some points about this isn't quite what I had in mind. Like, it's meant to be a deterrent from people doing this. That isn't the same as like saying well, you've got like a man here, like in theory an innocent man who I'm just going to send to his death, and it's going to be quite savage. He's making those kinds of points. He decides not to do it. He's not going to go through with it. He gives a talisman to Frank at one point, and he tells him about this shack like nearby, and he says go and live there and you can start your own life. And once again, the themes of like faith, religion, and I guess almost free will as well are coming into this, and those are definitely big themes in Lost. So this definitely is like the most Lost feeling episode of the 3 so far. I do like the way it builds on what we've already set up. I do like some of the things it gets into when it comes to the Boyd character and his conflict, but his role as like almost carrying out justice. Wrong, because this is all going down because Frank broke the rules, and it's the first example of this in a very long time where he's created chaos by doing this. I don't think the priest is that interesting to watch. Like, the actor I think is a little bit wooden and a bit weak. It might just be that the character comes off as a bit flat for whatever reason. As I said in the other reviews, the characters so far are a bit hit and miss. Like, there's definitely a good few that I do like, but there's some that are just feeling a bit flat and generic. He's one of them, although like his interactions and conflict with Boyd were good. I think maybe having Boyd in the scene, and it was obviously quite a meaty scene, that did sort of elevate it. And Boyd, there's a little bit of humour because of the way he reacts to him, saying, you know, you're a fucking terrible priest, you're the worst, and he's screaming it in that very intense, like Michael from Lost way. So that was actually quite entertaining. Choosing ceremony for where they're going to be living, and at the same time they're giving out talisman, and that just feels like very Lost, a Lost kind of thing, where it's almost similar to like some of the gatherings they would have on the beach. Probably a weaker part of the episode is you have this character of Jake, who's the other one from the car crash, from the other car, and he doesn't know yet that his friend Toby has died. Start of the episode, he's like screaming, like he has like some sort of a nightmare, and he's making a noise. So Donna comes in and she starts telling him the story about what's happening around the town, and he has like a more like extreme isn't the right, but he has a very different reaction to like Tabitha, for example, when she's told like even though she doesn't quite buy into it at first, she doesn't go off the deep end like this guy does. He just goes to the other extremes where he's like, well, no, I don't believe you, I think this is all a big prank. And he starts acting out throughout the episode around town, where he storms out of the house and they're like, no, just leave him, it's his thing if he wants to be outside. And then he nicks someone's bike, which is a little bit of a comedic moment. Goes into the diner at one point, that makes a scene. We find out in this then the diner is run by Kenny's mother, out from the grandfather's death, and we find out then she just wants to keep working, but there's a little bit of a way about her where she's got a certain way about her. And there's a little bit in this diner where there's a sense of something a bit weird going on with like the jukebox, because the jukebox keeps turning itself on at night. Christy and Kenny might be together, because at one point she comes in and she asks about how the mother is doing. I'll go with mother for now. And she comforts him, and it does seem a little bit romantic, but like I also think maybe they're keeping it under wraps. I got that vibe just because of the way the scene was. Sarah works there in the diner, and she tells the other guy then she's going to work because otherwise they'll wonder where she is, and not to make it look suspicious. Guy Jake, I think his name is, makes one hell of a scene in the diner where he just walks in because he believes that this is all a prank from his friend Toby. That then, because you hear him talking to Kenny at one point in the diner about how he thinks this is like one big like game room, like there's different puzzles in each part of this town, and he's just not buying into it, and he's acting like a complete arsehole. It's one of those things, like, you can understand him not buying it, but just the way he's acting throughout the episode is very over the top, and it's actually quite annoying. Like, I think it is the weakest part of the episode. I can see what they're doing. Like, it's a different way to show someone who isn't going to believe what he's being told in this town, and it's just a different kind of reaction to it. But at the same time, it's something where almost his naivety is putting him in danger, and this idea that he doesn't want to face up to the truth, and that's something which Kenny is saying, that he's going to get himself killed the way he's going, so that's why he monitors him and keeps an eye on him, tries to convince him. But I just found the Jake character a bit too much to handle, with like his loud sort of outbursts. And there's a scene like where he goes down to this cellar at one point, like underground, and he seems to have an like a vision of some sort of a creature down there, and then he passes out, so it definitely implies that it's either in his head or maybe he saw it and then he passed out as a result. But then again, he still thinks it's a prank. He's like, it's a comedic moment again, because he skips out of there like just shouting, "Toby, you're a genius," and so it does get a little bit goofy, and he convinces him that then this is all real and he has to take this stuff seriously, because like he shows him the body of Toby to like convince him, and by the end of the episode he goes to live with Kenny and his mum, like, and that's the whole thing. And another thing which is very lost in the episode is you do get this wraparound style montage with like a certain kind of music which just shows where the different people are, the different characters, and it's after they've made the decision where they're going to live. And another thing with Jake is then he makes a scene again, ceremony, and it's at the point where Frank makes his decision, where he, despite being offered the shack and a new life from Boyd, he does face up to his thing, and he comes back and says, "Can I say a few words?" And he says, like, "I appreciate your offer, but the two most important people to me are gone now," and he just faces up to the fact that like it's his responsibility. And once again, this goes back to being a very religious type theme, because he now wants to face it. He wants to die so that he can go and be with them in the afterlife. It's during that scene where Jake again makes a bit of an arse out of himself, and then is like, once again, even at this point, he still thinks this is all a game, so he's just making like a scene of himself. So he has to be, once again, reined in. And I do like these moments where Boyd puts people like this in their place, where he's like grabs him by the collar and just tells him, "Yeah, just take this," and he's like, "Pick one," and you've got all these talismans on the thing, and it's to do with where you're gonna live, I guess, but it's like, yeah, just pick one. He was a little bit of a Sawyer type character. Maybe I'm stretching too much with like the Lost comparisons, but like just him being this very out there sort of loud character who's is always trying to rile people up, because it's not just that he's naturally freaking out and doesn't believe in this. It's almost then, yeah, he is just being an ass for the sake of it as well. This is a good episode again. Like, I don't like it as much as episode 2, but I think it does a good job of building on the mythology again, and some of the characters, and just some of the lore of this town and the way things run. And once again, as I said, strong stuff with the Boyd character. I think this is a very good role for Harold Pinio, and the whole like conflict of his character. Also, the stuff with the family was very solid again. Like, I did like Julie trying to be independent, because this feels like something which is very relatable to people when they turn 16, when they get to that sort of age where they consider themselves to be like young adults, and they feel that they're ready to be exposed to the world, and they're ready to make their own decisions. And so I like then she's at that stage naturally anyway, and that it throws certain things up when they're in this new setting, where it's a little bit different than if they were just naturally in their own space. She's still a little bit put out by her family. Like, she's just at that stroppy 16-year-old age where when the parents are like goofing around with like with Ethan, the younger son, she's just sort of like, oh yeah, whatever, this is embarrassing, and she wants to hang out with older people is what it comes down to. She's obviously formed a bit of a bond with the girlfriend of Boyd's son, Fester. They're starting to connect. She's a little bit cynical about, like, at one point, Jonas, I think his name is, another religious sort of name, but like, he builds a crutch for Ethan, and she's like, well, why would you help us? You don't even know us. And it's like, it's just what we do. But yeah, Julie's obviously getting on well with like Fester and her boyfriend, and just wants to be around them and be a bit more independent from the family. So it sets that up nicely, and then at the ceremony when she makes the choice, it really it causes a bit of a stir, and it sort of causes frictions, not just with those characters but with some of the others. Like, as I said, Donna trying to be this enforcer, saying, yeah, no, she made the decision, you've got to live with it. And as I said, like, Boyd's more of the mediator. He's like just saying, don't worry, my son's staying in the same place as Julie, so he'll watch out for her. She'll be fine, don't worry. And I think for the time being that's like sells it down a bit, even though Tabitha particularly is on edge about it, which you can understand. But yeah, like I said, the Boyd stuff was good. I enjoyed the stuff with Julie and the family. That was solid enough stuff, and some decent character stuff in the episode. Probably the weakest stuff was Jake's stuff, even though I could see what they were doing. But that's episode 3 of From Season 1. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen this one in the comments below, and if you're watching the show for the first time and want to join in the conversation, then feel free. Let me know what you think of this show up to this point. Keep it spoiler free for later episodes. But yeah, you can follow along and add to the discussion. But thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.